First call up for Michael Chertoff, St. Petersburg, Florida. William, Independent Line. Hi.
Hello. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
You mentioned the September 10th, 2001 mindset. That made me nervous, so I think it should be September 9th. I was wondering if the missing $2 trillion plus that Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld reported on September 10th, 2001, where those trillions went. Did you all ever find it?
I have to say, I must have missed that news report about the missing trillions. I do know that in the run-up to September 11th, the 9/11 Commission looked back at what had been done and what hadn't been done, and I think they found the key problem was collecting information and fusing information so that we could get the best possible picture of the threat we faced. You know, in the Cold War, we worried about bombers and missiles attacking the United States, and that's why we had radar. In the war involving terrorists, we don't have radar that's going to detect bombs and missiles that are going to prevent attacks. What we have is intelligence, and the ability to gather and analyze and integrate all that intelligence is the principal way in which we protect ourselves.
Your predecessor, Tom Ridge. And now Mark in Gwen, Michigan. You got your volume down, I know, and you can go ahead with your question for Secretary Chertoff.
Yes, hello, Mr. Chertoff.
Hello, Mark.
I wanted to let you know that I called the Department of Homeland Security and was trying to give them information. They connected me with the FBI, and as soon as I mentioned the wealthy elite, they cut me off. I called back the Department of Homeland Security and asked them, I'm trying to get the Department of Homeland Security some very important information. They connected me back to the FBI.
Mark, what is that important information? What is that important information?
That important information is called the wealthy elite. We have overwhelming evidence to prove that these people have taken control of the United States federal government. They are the ones that attacked us on 9/11.
So, Mr. Chertoff, if that man has information he wants to share, where would you recommend he send him?
Well, I think they did the right thing. They sent him to the FBI. If someone wants to allege a crime or a threat, usually the FBI is the first respondent, and you know, they have to evaluate whether they think there's any actual evidence to proceed. But normally the FBI is very responsive if there's a serious, credible piece of information.
What's your general viewpoint about people who think the federal government was involved in 9/11?
I think that that's in the same category as Holocaust denial and those people who still aren't convinced that President Obama was born in Hawaii. It's kind of a out there conspiracy theory which does not warrant a lot of attention.
Mandy in New Orleans, you're on with Michael Chertoff. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Would you please allow me a follow-up, because I know predictably what this man will answer to my questions. Mr. Chertoff, please do not feign ignorance on this, because if I can find this out, certainly you know it. Recently, 6 of the 10 9/11 commissioners have stated publicly that the 9/11 Commission was hogwashed, that it was set up to fail, and it was a whitewash. Recently, Bethlehem Publications, 9 scientists that were given debris from the World Trade Centers have found evidence of nanothermite, a high-grade military explosive.
Okay, Mandy, thank you. We're going to leave it there because we know where you're going. Mr. Chertoff, you've addressed that question.
Yeah, I mean, again, this crops up from time to time, and it has been looked at thoroughly by everybody. Frankly, you have people who witnessed the planes going into the buildings. I mean, it's I have to say, it's like Holocaust denial and the people who believe the president was not born in Hawaii. It's just a myth.
Orlando, Florida. Nelson, Democrat. Hi. Whoop. Nelson is gone, it appears, and we will move on to Hayesville, Georgia. Clyde, Independent.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Peter. Mr. Chertoff.
Morning.
Excuse me. I have 33 years in the military, 5 years working for the Department of Defense, and to this day I still see the cover-up on 9/11. We know that Able Danger, which infiltrated the terrorist activities, had photographs of the terrorists, knew that they had a plan to attack targets, and a report went forward, sat on either Clinton's desk, I believe it was 98, 99, or Jamie Gorelick's desk, and it was never acted on.
You write in your book about you call this a generational challenge. Unquestionably, the threats we face constitute a generational challenge to our nation. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that the 21st century is a different kind of warfare than the 20th century. 20th century, we were used to having massed armies. You know, the enemy came over the hill. You could see the cloud of dust. People wore uniforms, and there were a set of rules and principles that were very clear. 21st century is different. The enemy is networked. The line between the military and the criminal has really been obliterated. We have to use a combination of defense and law enforcement. We can't choose one or the other. So we're facing a new kind of warfare. It's unfortunately leveraged by the technological revolution, which means that a smaller and smaller number of people can do more and more damage, as we saw on 9/11. And that means we have to completely retool and reconfigure our strategy and our menu of options in dealing with this kind of threat. We can't afford to have boxes and silos anymore. We have to have an open architecture for how we deal with this new, very, very dangerous challenge.
And do you think the way the intelligence community is organized today is better than it was?
It's clearly,
and have we gotten to that point where we're sharing?
Peter, it's clearly better, and there is more sharing, but it's not completely where it needs to be. And I'd say there are a couple of areas where that's true. One is we still tend to view what goes on overseas and what goes on over here as two separate domains. And the fact of the matter is, particularly with the Internet, you can't draw that distinction. So we have to have a more seamless intelligence capability. The second thing is our legal principles have not kept up with the new challenges. You know, one of the problems I think we faced right after 9/11 is rules had been written for dealing with foreign intelligence and how we surveil it back in the days of, we were worried about the Soviet Union or other countries. And while we still have concerns about nation states, the issue of terrorism is now equal in importance. And we didn't have a legal model that helped us deal with that. So one of the things I think Congress hasn't done and needs to do is to actually sit down and think through, in a bipartisan way, what is the legal architecture we need to deal with this 21st century challenge.